Good evening. Disgraced Olympic cyclist Rohan Dennis is tonight facing time behind bars after pleading guilty to driving while disqualified with his children in the car. The father of two will learn his fate in September and has hired a top criminal barrister to act on his behalf.
Another walk of shame for Rohan Dennis. Rohan, what was your reason for driving while disqualified? What was your reason? Did you have a good reason? Having just pleaded guilty through his lawyer to driving while disqualified, arriving 4 hours early for the hearing. What were you thinking? In May last year, the 36-year-old received a suspended sentence, a good behaviour bond and 5-year driving ban over the crash that killed his wife, champion Olympic road and track cyclist Melissa Hoskins, outside their Medindi home in December 2023. He narrowly avoided going to jail, but this time he might not be so lucky. In a flagrant breach of those court orders, just last month, Dennis was caught behind the wheel of his Volkswagen, not far from the family home, with his young children in the back. The maximum penalty for driving whilst disqualified is up to 12 months jail. The father of two is never far from the headlines. He recently courted controversy when he posted a photograph of a Porsche on Instagram with a caption describing it as an absolute weapon. The comments were deemed deeply insensitive and offensive. Magistrates and judges regularly warn offenders about the serious consequences of driving while disqualified, but Dennis refused to shed any light on why he chose to disregard that order. The driving offence and the breach of the good behaviour bond have been referred for sentencing to the district court. That's been set down for September, when he'll be represented by top criminal barrister David Edwardson KC. Deanna Williams, 7 News.
A David and Goliath battle looms in the hills where a much-loved family business has been earmarked by the government for demolition to make way for a school. But there's been a bizarre twist, with two of the development's key backers changing their tune.
It was the phone call this father and daughter never saw coming.
They're pretty much going to come in and take it, force a sale, and we're going to have to leave one day.
On Ebony's birthday, and after 2 years of pouring blood, sweat and tears into the Mount Barker eatery,
we sold our house.
Walk the Dark is now on the chopping block. The pair told the site would be taken over by the state government. The following day, plans for a $61 million primary school were made public.
Now, the primary school will be able to feature a room for 350 students.
It makes me furious. Again, it was Ebony's birthday. She was in tears all day. It wasn't even 24 hours before a press conference. It wasn't even 24 hours.
Alongside the Education Minister, local independent MP Matt Schultz and Mount Barker Mayor David Leach stood to celebrate the project.
I congratulate the government for taking this step.
I'm very excited that this is now going to be moving ahead.
But today, 7 News discovered they were also among the first of hundreds of locals to sign a petition opposing the school's location.
I spoke to Matt Schultz the day before. He personally said to me that this is the wrong site.
Were they aware prior to the press conference, though, of the acquisition?
Yes.
So they were aware the acquisition was going to take place?
That's right.
But to muddy matters further, late this afternoon, Matt Schultz released a statement expressing his concerns about the government's chosen site. The mayor, meanwhile, says he believes the school and the family restaurant can coexist.
The owners now face an uncertain future, and because they lease the property rather than own it, there's no guarantees they'll receive compensation for a business they've spent years building.
My son's asking what's happening with the dock, and it's just, it's hard. Sorry.
Jonathan Edwards, 7 News.
Crows defender Josh Worrell will look to put a challenging week behind him in tonight's blockbuster against the Swans in Sydney. Josh Money is at this SCG, and Josh, it's perhaps the club's biggest game of the season.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that, Will. They have not been a team above them all season, but a win tonight and they're into the top 4. So we're about to get the final teams, but I'm told there are no late changes, so that means, as promised, Josh Worrell will play after this testing week where he was reported for careless driving in that alleged incident with the pedestrian last Friday. The club is confident the 25-year-old is in the right frame of mind to play. I've just caught up with his line coach, Jack Homsch.
We're throwing our support behind him. It's been a big week for him, but for obvious reasons we can't comment too much. It's a legal matter now, but, absolutely supporting him as best we can.
Can football be one of the greatest escapes sometimes?
I think you'll find yeah, when the game's going, you've got 2 hours where your sole focus is on the footy, and your teammates are around you and they've got your back. So it certainly can be at stages, yeah.
Now, it must be said the weather has not been great today. The rain has stopped for now, but the ground is still quite wet, so it could make to a slippery start to this absolute blockbuster. The Crows are slight underdogs, but they did win here last season by a whopping 90 points. Well, I'll take you inside the Crows camp a little later in sport.
All right, we'll catch you then, Josh. 7 News can reveal more than 100 distraught homebuyers who've had their housing contracts torn up north of Adelaide may see light at the end of the tunnel. The state government's vowed it won't let the developer get away with what it calls scumbag behaviour.
The Springwood estate in Gawler East has been hot property.
It couldn't be more picture perfect.
Talia Bickerdike is one of hundreds who invested in the multi-stage development, only to be told her contract would be terminated by Welco.
I have so many words that I want to use, but I just don't feel like they deserve it.
Today, the Gawler Council CEO said he too was blindsided.
I can categorically state that every single one of these allotments was able to be delivered.
It's hard enough without people being the victim of scumbags who are out there trying to rip them off.
Since 7 News broke the story last night, both local and state governments have come out firing.
The South Australian government is absolutely determined to make sure that these people don't get away with it.
The developer has scrapped stages 8 and 9, blaming a proposed new road to handle increased traffic, but the council's not buying it.
I think there was a decision that was made commercially that didn't understand the future commercial decisions and reputational commercial decisions.
Welco has refused our request for an interview, instead issuing another written statement, telling 7 News it's bound by a confidentiality agreement with the town of Gawler.
We certainly have an NDA for a very specific financial matter. What we don't have an NDA about is the alignment of this road and how it relates to the delivery of these parcels of land.
Leaving buyers with more questions than answers. Madison Stanley, 7 News.
And Madison joins us now in the studio. Maddie, you're hearing there could be a way out of this.
Well, there may be light at the end of the tunnel. The Gawler CEO tells me he's been in talks with Welco and is optimistic a negotiated outcome can be reached. He says his top priority is reinstating those cancelled contracts, and the council is prepared to do whatever it takes to make that happen. But if the developer decides to push ahead with the axing of more than 100 allotments, it will still have a lot of angry customers to answer to. Some telling 7 News they're even considering a class action lawsuit. Will?
All right, thank you, Maddie. 3 young holidaymakers have escaped a massive fire at a well-known Airbnb mansion in the western suburbs. The multi-million-dollar blaze was started by an electrical fault in a disused sauna.
The palatial Lockleys mansion on Henley Beach Road explodes in flames at 4 a.m.
Look at that, it's going crazy. This is the worst thing I've seen.
It was a rude awakening for 3 friends on their first night in Adelaide visiting from Alice Springs. But it wasn't a smoke alarm that alerted them to the danger.
Well, I woke up to the smoke in the middle of the night and then opened the door and saw downstairs that it was just full of smoke. Woke up Tara.
Luckily, the trio jumped out of bed, picked up their dog Roger and made it out before the flames took hold.
Grabbed our phone, called 000, grabbed some jumpers and headed out.
Within minutes, the 3-storey mansion was engulfed, firefighters taking almost an hour to control the inferno.
Pretty much flames were all through the roof when we arrived. We forced entry to all the windows and doors on the first level.
Investigators believe an electrical fault in a disused sauna used to store linen started the blaze. On Airbnb, this property's advertised as a modern mansion boasting 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, accommodation for 16 and available for rent for $2,500 a night. Adelaide's famous Raka Raka brothers previously featured the rental in a viral YouTube video called We Got a Mansion, viewed by 1.7 million people.
We here at the mansion. Look how big this house is. Holy shit.
Damage is estimated at $2.5 million. Peter Caldecott, 7 News.
There's some good news this winter, with flu numbers way down, but health experts say it's too early to call it a victory. Kimberly Pratt joins us live. Kim, people have died from influenza this year.
They have, Will. There have been 11 deaths so far and hundreds more have been in hospital with the flu. But it appears RSV is spreading faster this winter. There have been 655 cases reported just last week. And while statistics suggest the sexually transmitted disease chlamydia is right now more prevalent than flu or COVID, experts warn the virus is unpredictable, with last year's flu season lasting 33 weeks.
The flu season is not over. We've got some good numbers which are welcome, but they don't tell the story and the risk still remains.
And while South Australia's vaccination rate is better than most, he said 40% of adults over 65 have not been vaccinated, while only a quarter of children under 5 have had the jab. So, Will, of course, the advice to all South Australians is to get a flu shot.
Thank you, Kim. Monarto Safari Park is mourning the loss of one of its lions. 10-year-old Kubwa had to be euthanased after suffering an aggressive form of cancer. He arrived at Monarto from Melbourne Zoo in 2018. He and brothers Kashka and Keto have been a much-loved part of the park and favourites among visitors. America's biggest TV networks have refused to telecast US President Donald Trump's live address to the nation. In it, he blamed a Chinese conspiracy for rigging his 2020 election loss without a scrap of reliable evidence.
A major primetime address being sold as big news for the American people.
I'm announcing the immediate declassification and release of critical intelligence.
Written off by many political experts as a big bunch of baseless claims. The intelligence released, a trove of largely redacted papers published by the White House. Donald Trump claims they show a data breach in the country's voting system by China.
To hacking, exploitation and foreign interference. Just as disturbingly, this vital information has for many years been covered up and hidden from you. The American people, our beautiful, our great American people.
They date back to 2020 when Trump was beaten by Joe Biden, still claiming the win was stolen from him with no evidence to back that up. After a long history of peddling false election claims, major news networks here weren't taking the chance of allowing the president to spread more misinformation, making the unprecedented decision not to broadcast his address.
I heard nothing new. I heard no concrete evidence or even allegations that foreign actors actually changed the results of American elections.
I asked my Republican colleagues, why are you complaining about election fraud? We won all the damn elections.
But more elections are on the way, congressional polls where Democrats may make gains, amid chilling images like this. A massive billboard installed in Tehran, Donald Trump lying in a coffin, and this vision of a sixth night of US airstrikes on Iran, a war that is only intensifying by the hour. In the United States, Hannah Ford, 7 News.
A high-speed police chase through Melbourne's north has ended in a spectacular crash and a death-defying survival. The driver clocked 120 k's per hour through back streets, coming within centimetres of wiping out an innocent motorist. When the 46-year-old lost control of the stolen car and crashed, he tried to do a runner. He attempted to steal the car of a Good Samaritan who'd stopped to help, but his reckless rampage was over. An Australian soldier has been killed by Russian forces while fighting for Ukraine. His parents are making a dangerous dash to the war zone to bury their son.
In a place they call the House of Sorrows, another wartime funeral, not for their own, but an Australian. Samuel Michael Pedrozzini, just 26, from Lismore. His parents, Leonie and Tim, braving the high-risk journey deep into a war zone to be there for their only son. Pedrozzini was a soldier with the Australian Army deployed to England to train Ukrainian soldiers, but decided to join them instead. He wanted to fight for Ukraine, his commander told local media, to defend its freedom and independence. His broken-hearted mother presented with the flags of Ukraine and Australia that had covered his coffin. I'm I'm completely lost and will try to continue as you would have us do, she said, through a translator adding she'll still talk with him every day.
Please keep running beside me.
Pedrosini joined the Australian Army in 2020, 7 RAR Adelaide. In 2023, Australia launched Operation Kudu, combat training Ukrainian soldiers in England. Pedrosini was an instructor, but in 2025 moved to war-torn Ukraine and was embraced. He was simply outstanding, good machine gunner, marksman, medic. Promoted to Special Forces in May, killed just 1 month later in frontline Donetsk.
Samuel Pedrosini's death takes the number of Australians killed fighting in Ukraine to at least 13. His family approving his burial there, telling local officials it's what he would have wanted.
Telling a friend, this is my country now. Laid to rest alongside local fallen soldiers, the cemetery hailed as the Heroes' Alley. Chris Reason, 7 News.
Shock jock Kyle Sandilands has confirmed a return to Australian audiences with a weekday breakfast show launching on August 10. The new program will mimic his old one on Kiss FM, minus longtime sidekick Jackie O. It'll be streamed with Sandilands' new app with a $99 a year subscription. Kyle promises the show will be ad-free and uncensored.